Good evening, Safe Space family, and welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited to see you all tonight. We have some wonderful things going on. I'm going to say it again, Happy New Year, because I haven't been on since about the 24th of January, but it was well worth the wait. Tonight we have Christiana Wilson. For those of you that have never been by Safe Space has been created to give a broad perspective of people's stories. And the bottom line is to let people know that there's always hope in the Lord. So we've told stories from authors of survival, God's miracle, deliverance, generational curses. A young lady was murdered, and her mom wanted to talk about how she made it through waiting for her body to be found. Just all types of life situations have been covered on Safe Space. Safe Space is going to be 2 years old in March. I cannot believe it. I'm so excited. But with all of the information that we have dispensed, all I ask is that the information reaches those that are in the place of need for that information, whatever it may be. So this is a place of hope in God. Even if you don't have a relationship with him or a strong one or one not at all, just listen to the things that have happened. Give it a chance to know that he is a definitely unseen presence in your life that can make the difference for your life. Again, tonight we have Christiana Wilson. She is a wonderful, in my opinion, and I'm sure many other, influencer on Instagram. Her Instagram page is Forever Chrissy, and that is spelled Cryssy.
Yeah.
It's not the way we would think. It's different because she is very different in a good way, in my opinion. She's a very wise young woman. Listening to her speak reminds me of old spirit, which I have always been, but I found out our commonality. We grew up logistically close to our grandparents. Hers lived across the street from her and her parents, and mine lived down the street from my parents and I. I believe spending time with the elders gives you an unfair advantage. It
Yeah.
gives you, if you take the time to spend time with them, it helps. So, welcome, Chrissy. Welcome to Safe Space. And thank you for coming by. How are you?
I'm doing really, really good. The allergy season is here, but I'm pushing through. And I'm just in a season of like gratitude, honestly. I spent so much time 2023 in disbelief, just seeing some of the things that came to be. And I think that this is really the year where I get to bring it home, like, and really just truly act
Manifestation.
my purpose. Yes, yes. All the seeds are planted. I feel the roots are there, and I feel like now it's time to start to like really sprout. And I'm excited. I'm excited.
Now listen at that. Did that sound like a typical young person? Nothing against them. She talking about plant seed time and harvest time. That's old people stuff, y'all. I'm telling you, that's old people stuff. So since we're talking about that, tell us a little bit about Chrissy. I know I looked at your content. It is absolutely awesome, but most of it is videos. So people don't have a feel for who Chrissy is, if she's an only child, what she likes to do, how long she has planted these seeds to get to the place of beginning to reap her harvest, and how she plotted and stayed the course, I should say, planned and is a better word, and stayed the course in her discipline to see this time of harvest. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so there's a lot, and I can be long-winded. So y'all let me know if it's like, okay, girl.
Do you?
Okay, so I am, like she said, Christiana. A lot of people call me Chrissy. My family knows me as Anna, so it's Christiana. And I just allow everyone to say Christiana because it's easier for everyone. It's not a big
And
deal.
I said that, I'm sorry,
No,
Christiana.
no, trust me, I say Christiana, and my mom is like, "It's Christiana," and I'm like, "Eh, it's okay." So I'm originally from Chicago, but I've been in Atlanta so long. Trey always tells me, my boyfriend, he's like, "You from Atlanta at this point." So I claim Atlanta. I went to Kennesaw State. I've been in the beauty industry probably since I want to say elementary school. I was the go-to person doing my siblings' hair. My mom tried her best, Lord knows, okay? And I think I said, "Okay, I'll take over." And, yes, I have 7 siblings. Most people do not know that.
Really?
Yes, I have a ton of siblings.
Are
One
you the oldest?
one older brother, one older sister, but I feel the oldest just because everybody comes to me as, like, Mama Chrissy. They know, if you're coming to me, the conversation is probably gonna be deep unnecessarily and or to them. And I'm always gonna try to find a way to tell you what you need to be doing. So that's me. My mom calls me like boss lady. She's always like, "What should I do?"
Well, the wisdom is there, and
Well,
it's
I
God
appreciate
given.
that. I
Uh,
definitely do. And I've been introduced to YouTube around 2014 is when I really made the most impactful video. It kind of went viral. I went away for a little bit, posted again in 2015. That video ended up going viral. Went away for a little bit, and then 2016 is where I got the most consistent. And it's been a journey. It truly has. It's been what, roughly 9, almost 10 years of me just really giving everything to like my following and community. And you're right, I actually have not shared a lot. I felt like, I was in a season of like not really knowing how to communicate, and hair was the way that I really connected to
mhm.
people all over the world. I feel like it's the one thing that does bring people together is where we can find common ground. Whether you have the hair or don't have the hair, there's some experience attached to that. And it's my safe place. So I love that we're in a safe space. Okay, you see what I did there?
You said well, you posted in one of your videos, watching your videos tells me whether you speak it or it's something that you post. You said it reminded me when you said what you just said about your consistency in over the last decade. You said success is 10% dreaming and 99% work. You said a number of things that gave insight to who you were. You said, don't live in the physical, separate your spirit from your flesh.
Yeah.
And I thought that was such a profound statement. You also said that you know that you're a blessed soul. I'm a woman of God. I don't care what it takes for me to get there. I'm excited about what I am here to do for Him because I completely belong to the Lord. And you believe in positive living and affirmations. You don't like skepticism. I picked all of that up. Of course, I had spoken to you, but I picked all of that up from looking at your content, which on your page is predominantly hair
I'm
videos,
glad.
tutorials.
That
But
actually
I
good.
picked that up. I picked that
I'm
up
glad.
from
That makes
watching.
me so happy. I'm really happy about that because I always that's something that I battle with really trying to figure out how to deliver the message in a world where it's not socially acceptable to be the wiser one in the room, you know? And it's not in a place of like hierarchy or ego or anything. It's truly
Mm-mm.
like I'm trying to find a way to, of course, the outside world can look at the physical things, right? Well, she's beautiful externally and she has these talents. And it's like, that's just to get you, right? That's the bait. And now that I'm reeling you in, let's really have a conversation and let's really talk. And I think that's where I am now in my journey. It's time to talk. Now that you guys have the trust and like the faith is there through my crown and the things that I love and adore, all these adornments. There's so much more that needs to be shared. And I
That's
see,
under there.
yes, and I
That's
see
under there, the foundation.
yes, and I really see how hair has transformed my life truly from the beginning. I remember just some of my first thoughts of like seeing my mom, get dressed in the morning, doing her hair and her makeup, and how beautiful it made her feel, even on her worst days. She always made it a point to put herself together, even just in the smallest way. She didn't have to wear a lot of makeup, whether she chose to
Mhm.
or not. She just, brush your teeth, wash your face, make sure that you look presentable because it's all about, literally what's on the outside can be translated on the inside and vice versa. And I think the better that I kind of get to understand that, or got to understand that, it really brought me closer to God, because it's all an illusion. We all, we live in these illusions of like the beauty industry. And that's where I guess the comment that I made before about, not living in the physical, that got a lot of controversy, because a lot of people didn't understand, like, how could you say that if everything that you do is, seemingly supporting externally validating things? But it was not that. I
But
understand,
you meant the mind.
and I
You
live
meant the
it.
mind, not in a literal sense.
Yeah.
That this adornment and this external thing, it fades away and it's all superficial and it changes constantly, quicker than young people, I think, even know. Speaking as a person in my 50s, I felt like I was 30 just yesterday. Time is fleeting. So, like you just said, it's time to talk. It's time to get down to the meat of things. It
Yeah.
is important to keep ourselves presentable. To keep our hygiene. And for me, much like you, I watch my mom. So it makes me feel better if I'm not feeling good to look in the mirror and see something that's appealing to me, but that's superficial. So I think that's what you meant by the physical. I think your parents and your grandparents are important to you, right?
Very.
Tell us how that played into the philosophies and the depth and the wisdom and maturity that you have acquired, what you're expressing in the things that you say, just like the statement that we're talking about.
Yeah, so I actually come from a family of communicators. Anybody that knows my mother, my grandma, even my dad, we are very direct. We communicate effectively. We are able to really like express ourselves without having the ego and having, all of those unnecessary barriers. And, I feel that growing up, because I was able to express myself freely, it made me comfortable, to really dive into the spirituality and have tough conversations with my grandmother in elementary school, my mom in elementary school, my dad in elementary school. And I've always just felt a strong connection to God. I remember going to church like when I was little, and like it wasn't about the production of it all. I just felt like, okay, I'm here. I don't know what you want me to do, but I know that there's a reason I am here. And at the moment, I didn't see it. What kind of helped me discover truly like my passion and purpose was through talking to my family and seeing the things that they went through and seeing the things that they overcame. I always say, don't let fear interfere. And I say that because my grandmother came from a very difficult background, same as my mother, and she overcame every single obstacle. And I mean, if you know anything about Chicago, it is not an easy place. The mindset, and we can get into it, but a lot of people, a lot of Black people that are from Chicago originate from Mississippi. And we all know, right? We can get into the slave trade and just a lot of things that were instilled. My grandmother is white, Black, so that's like a whole nother conversation and layer of just like trauma. And so that communication grew me up really, really quickly. And so when I would spend time around my peers, I always felt like, this what y'all want to talk about? Like I truly always felt that at the core. And I just knew that there was something more that I should be doing. And I think as I started to grow and really get into my own looks and beauty and try to figure that part out, I went through a really, really tough time because I started to get rejection. For the first time, I wasn't hearing from my parents, "Oh, you look beautiful." And it's not because they didn't feel I looked beautiful. They saw me starting to follow my friends, right? And the way that I dress and starting to change. I wasn't the same Christiana that they knew me to be. I started to turn into, like, and to really get into a secular world. And I think there was disappointment on their end. And even though the communication was there, I started to become rebellious and really just trying to soul search. And I think in that rejection and that rebellion, I really went through a moment of like, I'm going to dye my hair red and I'm going to try this new thing and and I really went down a path of like discovery. I truly did. When I went off to college, I was so like, oh, I'm going to show my parents I can do hair, because it was go to college, get an education. We all have been told the thing, and that was their safe space. But for me, I saw something else. I'm like, well, I have a talent. you guys always support me in everything academically, but support me in this hair. Like I remember growing up and I literally would do hair for McDonald's smoothies. If y'all are out there and y'all know, I apologize in advance, okay, for all the ladies that I messed up about ninth and 10th grade, practicing sew-ins and all that stuff. But I really, really just knew that I needed to get good at this because it was something that God wanted me to do. And the more women that I connected with, I was like, oh, I'm not the only person that has this story. Like there's so many other people. It started to become like not just therapy for me, but also for them. You know,
You know,
and
it's interesting that you say that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I have to say this. I jotted down great confidence, a message for women, young women that had experienced trauma, and that there is a lack of standard. So it's when you're talking about when you went down this path that was not you, but that you had to experience these things to mature you to the place to have the courage to be you. Tell us how you navigated the peer pressure, the wanting to fit in because you were young, um, and how you developed the courage to come back to who God created you to be, because that's basically what you did. And it probably wasn't popular because you were so mature. You were managing trauma because it had been taught to you throughout your developmental years because of your parents or grandparents' history. You had been taught how to deal with it and matured in it. And how did you develop the confidence again and the courage to step out to say, this is who I really am, whether it was dealing with your parents' expectations of you or peer pressure? Speak to young women to try to help them get into a place of what you know to be is the right journey for them, minus the specifics. They're not you, they don't do hair, but to be true to themselves and choose that way instead of a lot of what we see today in social media and just out in general is things that, and I don't think I'm that old fashioned, but things have just gotten so far out that they're just not standards anymore about what people wear or the things that they say or even allowed to be done to them as young women.
well, I think a lot of people don't have a sense of identity. They don't even know where to begin to find it. I think a lot of people are not accountable in the ways that we take on the traits of other people. So when I talk about things like not living in the flesh, I'm literally talking about denying the flesh, the mind. Because a lot of times our mind will tell us things that the spirit didn't really mean, you know? And I think that like the spirit of God truly lives within us. I knew that it lived within me. So even in my darkest days, when I started, mind you, an A student, you know, always been at the top of the class. When I went through that rough patch about 10th and 11th grade, I cut my hair off and it was watching Shameless Maya on YouTube, another really big YouTuber. And, you know, it was a freeing experience. It was in the middle of like the natural hair movement. And I remember cutting off my hair. My mom got home from work and she looked at me and said, "What did you do?" That crushed my spirit because imagine you looking in the mirror and you're feeling the most beautiful. I'm coming from a relaxer. I had transitioned for 4 months. She didn't have any clue about it because remember, I'm the hairstylist in the house. And I'm like, oh, this is just so amazing. I'm stepping into a new me. I'm going to a new school because I was transitioning from 10th grade, 11th grade to a new school. I was going to be going to hair school while in high school. And she looked at me and was like, mm-mm, mm-mm. And, and my mom is brutally honest. And I'm sure I probably did look crazy if I'm being completely honest. But I felt in that moment that I just wanted to be validated and supported. So then to go to school and then to hear people in school go, because nobody else has an afro, right? Maybe one other girl, I think named Tiffany, had an afro. But her afro was big and juicy. So, you know, that's a different conversation than my little teeny weeny. Okay. And I wanted nothing more than to feel validated. So I think I went through a process of like always having that inner confidence within me, but not having that validation externally, which really broke me down. And so then I began to focus on not the academics not what God is telling me internally, but I really started to focus on what other people thought, the ways that other people viewed me. And it wasn't until I said, you know what, when I graduate, I'm gonna get as far away from these current people that I know, because I know there has to be another group of people that will make me feel like I belong. So I went to Kennesaw State. Fine. I literally had done some Senegalese twist, fun story. I did Senegalese twist, really, really long, like passion twist, I guess we call it. And so, of course, there's a white guy at the school, and he's like, wow, how'd you grow your hair so long? And I'm like, this is a joke. This is a joke. Do you know this man believed, and I allowed him to believe, that this was my hair for about 3 months, 4 months. So when I finally took it out, he's like, uh, you cut your hair. And I'm just like, what is this? Like, this cannot be real. Like, this, this is not reality. So I knew right at that moment that people are more accepting of you when you look a certain way, when you show up in the room a certain way. I got more of a response from my own community and validation when I had the wig on, the weave, and I talked a certain way, and I did what they thought was appropriate. And I'm watching all these girls on YouTube just being themselves, and I say, you know what? I'm gonna record. So one semester, me being rebellious because I want to work 2 jobs and go to school and do hair on the side. Why? I don't know. I just felt like I had to do it all. Like, I don't know where that spirit came from, but I did. And so I was always an overachiever. Well, the overachieving in college doesn't work because you have to focus. You really do. So I went from passing all the tests to now I'm on the, what is it? What, I cannot think of the,
Probation.
yes, academic probation, because I'm not going to class because I think it's high school, right? I'm thinking, oh, I can just show up. I know I'm going to do good on the test. And Kennesaw State is like, girl, no, you missed too many classes. That A went from a B to a C. So I said, okay, I'm on academic probation. I got 2 choices. Either I'm going to pay to go to school the next semester, or I'm going to take this money and I'm going to get me a car because I need another car, and I got me a laptop, which I still have this laptop to this day, and I bought a camera. That was the first time that I recorded my YouTube video. Yes, I made the sacrifice. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna just do it. I need a hobby, I need an outlet. Right now, I'm working, going to school. It's cool, but I'll figure it out on the back end. I'm sure my parents were, this is new news to them. I'm sure they don't even know that I did. But I did. I took a bet on myself, and I still continue to go to school, work, all of the above. And I guess up until this point is where I'm actually confident enough to say it's okay to be who you are. Like, it
But
didn't.
where did the confidence and the courage come from? Is it because you had backed yourself in a corner by getting on academic probation, so you had to make some decisions? I'm trying
I think
to
the confidence came from the
I'm
rejection.
trying to get you to convey to young ladies
Mhm.
that at that pivotal time, what made you make the decisions, I guess, that you made? What made you, probably because you were an overachiever and failure wasn't an option and you had to.
That's truly what I was gonna say. I really think it was just, I didn't like to be rejected. Rejection to me felt like a F. Rejection to me sounded like you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And I wanted nothing more than to praise my parents and have them praise me. So to me, it was always like I'm trying to fight to impress my parents. That's really
Gotcha.
all that it was.
I got it. I got
It
it.
was because I held them at such a high regard, and I saw what they overcame, and I felt like, girl, you don't have any excuses. So I didn't
But
get.
see, you had a standard. That's what's missing.
Mhm.
Your standard was to not fail. Your standard was to make your parents proud, no
Mhm.
matter what you had to do. So, being young today,
Mhm.
how would you incentivize someone that doesn't have that, where failure is all around them,
Mhm.
and maybe they don't even have that standard themselves? How would you, if you had to speak to a young lady and say, because I wrote down for you self-confidence, self-love, as I said before, no skepticism. So all positive. And you also posted, you are the director, creator, and writer of your own story, and you narrate. That
Yeah.
spoke volumes because you took full responsibility. You weren't making excuses. If you're the director, the creator, the writer of your story, and you're gonna do the narrating, speaking over it, there's really no excuse for you to say, well, the writer didn't write the right script for me, or
Right.
the director didn't tell me to stand in the right place on the set. Just using this as an analogy from your own quote.
Mm-hmm. And
So
I
often today, we
mhm.
live in a world where people that can't even apologize or take responsibility for whatever part they had in something that doesn't go right.
Yeah.
Just to say it, that it doesn't hurt you to say, I'm sorry for whatever part I played, even if it was something as minor as not responding properly
Yeah.
that lit the fire to whatever's happening. So, how would you direct them?
I think, and I've had this conversation with even close friends, so I'll kind of think of it that way. I feel like all is of the mind, and you truly get to decide where you want to exist. We all have pains, we all have struggles, we all have things that we can complain about, moments that we find to be our highlighting points of life. But I think it's not until you really become accountable about where you are and really understand where you want to go and really make a choice to put all of your energy and passion and drive and focus into getting there, that you'll really start to yield the results that you want. And I think that may have been the most pivotal thing. It's a choice. I could have continued to be in the environments that I was in simply because it's easy. To me, it's lazy. You hear a lot of people say, "Oh," and I've had people tell me this, "Oh, you're thinking too deep." And I look at that, and all that I hear is that, okay, you got a little bit more work to do. Because I remember telling people that when I didn't want to do the work, oh my God, this is too much. Why are you so emotional? Why do you want to talk about this? And it's not until life had to grow me up, right, through my own rebellion and my own lack of accountability, until I really understood that, like, no, God is trying to place you, the things that you talk about and the things that you say that you want. How you think you're gonna get them? You think you're just gonna wake up and one day the man of your dreams is gonna fall out of the sky? You think all your bills are gonna be paid? It doesn't work like this. This is the flesh. This is just a tool to get you closer to Him. So now that I understand that, cool, God presented me with this body, this hair, this face, not just on accident. It is intentional, right? So I can't look at myself. It's almost a curse to God for me to look in the mirror and wish that I had silky long hair. That's not what God intended for me. God intended for me to come to present myself as I am so that He can speak through me to other people. And I really feel that because there's so many women, even now, like I was just telling Trey earlier, that like, I think I'm going to stop laying my edges so sleek. I think I'm going to stop trying to silk press my hair so smooth. Because the reality is there's more Black women that, and other ethnicities, honestly, that have kinkier textures that wake up and go, my hair is a job. Your hair should not feel like a job. It's an experience. It's a way to express yourself. It's really honoring God to me. It's a testament. When I think of hair, I think of faith. I think of, strength and stability and and even those that have lost it, right? They tend to feel more vulnerable when they don't have it. Why do you think that is? It's a lack of identity. Hair truly puts you into a position to feel like, okay, if I look this way, I fit into this. It's an illusion. It's not real. You get to decide where you want to exist, and everything else is going to follow. If I focus on the negative, if I focus on the past, that's what I'm going to see. I don't know if y'all have heard of there's something called like the red car theory. This is kind of new to me. I
What is it called?
understand the red car theory.
Red car.
If I asked you right now, how many red cars have you seen today? You may not be able to tell me. But if I told you tomorrow, I'm going to give you $100 for every red car that you see, you're going to be able to tell me. So it's
Right.
not that you never seen a red car when you were driving, you just weren't focused on it. You see what I
Right.
mean? And then I truly think
I
that
do.
we can focus on the things that are truly important to us, but most people have to go through that discovery process. I'm not the most confident just because the most confident person had to also be the most insecure. The opposite of all of that, right? The person in the light had to also be the darkness. Sometimes I was in the darkest spaces where I was the light. I had to be my own light. It didn't
That's
just
right.
come from, it didn't just come out of a magical place. Like I feel that
It's a
every
pro
yes, it's a
it's a
process.
process. And it's see, and what you're speaking are biblical principles. I'm doing a book study with a group of ladies about the prophet Elijah. For him to get to Mount Carmel, if you're not familiar with the story, go to First Kings. It For him to get to the place that he could stand in front of almost 1,000 idol worshiping enemies, and he stand there alone worshiping God and the representative of God, and to be able to have the faith to call down fire from heaven in front of these people, and no one wanted to honor our God or the God of all gods.
Yeah,
He went through a process, which is the very thing that you're explaining. That is, you just said, I have been in such dark places. I had to be my own light. You also said earlier that it's a choice.
it is. It is. Because even in those darkest places, I think about so many ways that I could have gotten out. And that's why I like to say that it was an illusion, because that's what I consumed my mind with. The things that my parents didn't give to me, right? And it's not until I turned about 25, 26 that I was like, oh, wait, this is not my mama's fault. This is not my dad's fault. This is not my grandmother's fault. Like, hello, they are just tools. And and I truly mean that when I say tools, it's not from a lack of like love or anything like that, but I really view it on a spiritual plane. And I do have, I don't know, I felt a special connection. I just do. So sometimes when I explain things, it's not always on the most grounded level. So
I think it's because you have a maturity and an understanding already that he's real,
yeah,
and that you make your decisions based on taking accountability, which is a lack of sometimes now in the way we live as a
mhm,
society. You make your decisions based on biblical principles, because what you said just a minute ago basically summed up the process that Elijah went through to be able to do what God placed him in the earth to do. It was
yeah,
a process. When he began this, his getting to Mount Carmel, because he did what he did during a time of terrible idol worship
right,
under Ahab and Jezebel's rule. So he was up against it. He could not have done what he did at the end, at the beginning of his process, because he wasn't ready. So that's kind of the analogy of where you were when you were in college. But
exactly.
you made a choice to go through the process and not abort the process. You
Right.
just also said that I could have left and made saw ways out, which would have been aborting the process, which means you probably wouldn't have been where you are right now. So you
Exactly.
submitted yourself to the process,
Mhm.
and to the purpose of which God placed you here on the earth. And that is why you see things the way you do. I can't say it's not grounded. You see it in the way that I think we all need to submit ourselves to see it. What's so wonderful about it for me as a woman in her 50s is to see you get it by the time that you are 30 years old, because I didn't have it. I didn't have it. So where would I be now if I had? And I've never been tremendously rebellious or anything like that. I just did not submit to the magnitude of what you're speaking of, or even see the processes the way you do. I saw them as hardships.
Mm, yeah, yeah. That I mean, and a lot of people do. A lot of people don't. I think a lot of people don't want to go through the fire because it does hurt and it does harm and it does make you feel like you're alone. And I wish that people would explain more when they say it's lonely at the top. It's not actually lonely at the top. You can have as many people around as you choose, but the reason it feels lonely at the illusion of the top is simply because you are now more conscious about the people that you surround yourself with. That's why it feels lonely, because you don't see a lot of people speaking these things, and not just speaking it, but also living it and working through it. A lot of the people that I came into, contact with over the years, whether the relationship ended, and I mean friendships, not just romantic, but, however the relationship ended, whether positive or negatively, I do think at some point I was able to come to them to apologize, whether I was right or wrong, and I would always ask discovery questions like years later, months later, how was your experience with me? Tell me a little bit about it. What is it that I could work on? Because I knew that those were the tools that were going to get me to where I want to be. And
But that's good.
mhm,
That's good. But it's accountability.
mhm, mhm,
Most situations that people, when they can't grow or can't mature, and it's not always age based. Some people are 70 years old and they can't take accountability for their part in anything. It's hard to apologize, and they would never go back and ask someone, how did you perceive me? What was your experience like for me? Because that is something that would help them or give them the tools to mature and grow. It is always a nice thing to ask even those that you're around each and every day, how did I respond? Because we can't see ourselves.
yeah, yeah, and you would be surprised. Like my siblings. This is probably TMI, but my siblings we would always record our parents. Like whenever they would be going off on us, my mom used to hate it. She's like, "Why are you doing this?" But it's like we need to let you hear who you turn into, right? And but I've had to even do it to myself, because you don't know. Like, they always talk about, oh, the devil's doing this. I think we give too much credit to the devil. We need to be accountable, because the devil did not tell you to say that. You chose to say that. And it's like, oh, the devil's moving. No, girl, that is you. Stop. I hate that we try to separate it so much, because it's one. We are one. We're all connected already. So it's like, if we can collectively remove the barriers, stop this white, black, brown, it don't matter. It really does not matter at all. I mean, I don't want to get too political, but it burns my soul to see so many people get caught up in the illusions of things that have nothing to do with the purpose and the reason that you're here. And you hear so many people say, "Oh, I'm 20 or I'm 30 or I'm 40, 50, 60, and I'm trying to figure out what's my purpose? What's my passion? I don't know where I'm supposed to be." And it's like, you were married, you had kids, in my mind, I'm thinking, what was the thought process throughout that? You
There
know?
was no deep discussion. You said earlier, people go through the motion of life and they do what was expected of them. They don't take the time, as you did when you made the decision in school, whether you made it for the right reason or not, you made it
Mhm.
because you said, I don't know if you were in search of you or you were in search of making sure you didn't fail in pleasing your parents, but you still made a decision. But at some point, you decided to have the hard discussion within yourself,
Yeah.
because the worst thing in the world is to lie to ourselves.
Mhm.
The problem, I think, in a lot of instances is that we don't even have the discussion to lie or tell the
I
truth.
don't.
We just go through the motion. We just have the kids.
Yeah.
We just get married.
Yeah.
We just pick a career. We just go to work. We never sit down and take the time to first have the conversation with God to
Yeah.
see what it is that He placed us here in the earth to do.
Exactly.
And secondly, with ourselves, to make the decision to go through the process to get to the place that we can accomplish what it is that you are using social media to do. You listening to you and the way you relate to your crown is a part of how you are, as you said earlier. You are a full-time 6-figure earner influencer. You have drawn an audience
Mhm.
in with your hair, because that is a part of the passion and why you created. Now you have to use your voice
Mhm. Yes. Yes.
to open these conversations to influence a generation of yourself,
Yeah.
people my age, everyone. the young lady, wonderful LaShonda, that helps me with my Zooms for Safe Space. When I told her that I was interviewing you, she's like, I follow her. She's of my generation. So
Yeah.
you have a voice now,
Mhm.
and you have a responsibility to use it through what initially, as you said earlier, brought them to your platform.
Yeah. Yeah, and I totally agree. And I felt like I was fighting myself on it for a while because again, the rejection. Nobody wants to feel rejected. That overachiever, I heard somebody say this past year, overachieving is a trauma response. And I was triggered by that. I'm like, what? But in all seriousness, it is,
I
right? Because
believe it.
people pleasing is not a good thing, in terms of if it's not balanced, right? You can't have too much of anything. And I
That's
think
right.
what I was lacking a lot of the time was the balance, because I do have such strong opinions in my own spirituality. And I realize that the collective, a lot of people are not, especially my age. I think that's what it is. Like, I would prefer to sit in the room with the older people when I go to
You
a,
did when I met you.
yeah,
We were in a house full of, there were young people there that were your age, in their mid 20s. One was 29, and you came in the room with us 50-year-old women. And I looked at you like, what is she doing in here? And you fit right in with the conversation.
yeah. The old soul. I don't know. I like to learn. I am passionate about learning. And I feel like, and it's no shade to my generation, but I don't often feel
Right.
challenged when I'm in the room with them. And I love to be challenged. I want to be able to kind of not necessarily debate, but I want to hear how people think. So if we can't really have those deep conversations and really get somewhere and let it be purposeful, a lot of times I'm like, I don't really want to be there, like I don't.
Well, you're being true to who you are because you have a purpose. Because in speaking to you, even in preparation for this show, I discovered you have a very strong sense of discernment. Listening to you speak about things that you absolutely had no knowledge of could only be revealed to you, not from flesh and blood. And I think because you have been so aware and acutely aware
Yeah.
to the Holy Spirit from the time that sounds like you were a little girl, you going through the process and being true to surrendering, um, to your purpose in life and how he chooses to use you has advanced you and grown you in that area, in your wisdom and in your discernment. Because some of the things you said were, I just know and feel they were not revealed solely by flesh and blood.
I agree. And I have always, I mean, I kind of get weird when I talk about it, but I know that like it's not socially, it's not something people talk about, but I have a direct connection with God. And I know that we hear about all the type of crazy stuff that happens, but I don't need the extras to talk to God. He talks to me directly. And I think it's so funny. I always get these like strange messages from people like, hey, God has a message for you and your family. And I'm like, I think we already talked about it. We already talked about it. So yeah, ever since I was a little girl, I've been with the spirit, and I really just think I needed to feel protected, and that was my safe place, going within. I spent a lot of time alone. Even when I was with friends and stuff, I would just be like, everybody. I think so many people experience me in the opposite way of like the way that my spouse or like my family experiences me, because they get this the deep, the serious, and then everyone else, a lot of friends and people that, are just meeting me. They're like, oh, you're so bubbly and you're so, and I'm like, I'm that, but the real me is really, really just deep and dense and, have something to say always, always. And I've come across so many people and they're like, how are you telling me things that nobody should know?
That's right.
And I'm like, well, God told me to come and talk to you, and I just want to let you know what's going on. And so I'm grateful for the gifts. I really am. And it
Yes,
took
that's your discernment, and continue to be obedient. But what I'm so excited about is that you have a desire now that you have the influence that you do. You have the desire to have the conversations. You said at the beginning of Safe Space tonight, it's time to talk. Yes, I've done the videos. And if they're paying attention, you have spoken, because just from watching your things outside of talking to you, I developed a pretty good confirmation of what I had already experienced in person. But even if I had not experienced you in person, I would have known the things, the adjectives that I have used tonight from your quotes, and the things that I have used, the adjectives to describe the feeling of who I would have gathered that you were. And maybe it's because of who I am. I grasp it. And I'm sure maybe if we talk to some of your followers, they just look at the hairstyles. They don't see it. But when it comes from your mouth, I feel that you are going to be impactful in pulling them to the place of taking a look at listening to God, taking a look at their traumas. I wrote traumas in my notes, and inspirational, going for life. I wrote through your social media businesses, and even I would like to see you. I see that you have a business that you offer training people how to build their social media.
Correct.
In the way that you will communicate with them because of your connection to God. And I last year was introduced to a deliverance ministry in Douglasville with the Pastor Mark Rice through Pastor Latasha Taylor. And the traumas and things that we go through so often, I learned, and you and I spoke about this in preparation for the show, are things that we can't even help, because they've been given permission to attach themselves to our bloodlines. And we need to be delivered. We need to be aware. We need to know. We go through our lifetimes fighting and struggling and fighting and struggling. And it's not even something in our own power that we're not aware. We accept it as being a part of our family lineage, or whether it's illness or propensity to be alcoholics or to be promiscuous or whatever it may be.
They go, oh, that's just how my family is. And I'm like, why would you accept that? Why would you even believe that? And to believe in God is to know that this family that you're experiencing right now is not your true soul spirit family. They are the vessels to bring you here. So, what I have just come to learn over time is that people believe in God, but I don't think that they really have an understanding. And I feel that's where it's now time for me to come and help bridge the gap, because I can't relay the Bible word for word, but it lives within me. And that's why a lot of times when I do talk to people are like, you quote in the Bible. And I'm like, really? Like
you did tonight.
Yeah, like
you
I
did
would
tonight.
I wouldn't have known, but I do want to share a book that I read. And I read this I think I was probably like 23 or 24. And it's called It Didn't Start With You. And it's about how inherited family trauma shapes who you are and how to end the cycle. And that really started the process with me being able to understand my parents better, to see things from their perspective as well, and to also have a different conversation about what motherhood looks like. Because if I want to then say that I want to, be a mother one day, right? And I want to be in a committed marriage and all of that, I have to forgive my parents. Because we can try to tell ourselves that, oh, I'll do it differently, but those things are going to show up. If you do not deal with them, that baby will be the microwave to bring it to your front door. And that, like, I really, really believe that. So when we talk about postpartum depression and we talk about, illnesses within the body and all of that stuff, I truly believe it is undealt with trauma. And, it's just being forced to the surface. I don't know how.
And the way the Bible refers to it is generational curses, because it's not been dealt with from generation to generation to generation. And it's Satan trying to kill, steal, and destroy, which is his assignment. He uses our sins and us to destroy us. And sometimes it's not even our own sins. When I say I mean our lineage 3-4 generations back. And of course, we're born into it and we continue perpetuating it. That's the baby in the microwave bringing it to the door. Because I've seen it. I've seen it in my own family where parents cannot explain why their kids are the way they are. Sometimes they may even skip a generation or two.
Mhm.
and then manifest again. And it's so far down that you don't even, no one alive knows where the behavior came from, or
Exactly.
where the struggle came from, or the habit, or whatever it may be that's
Yeah.
attached itself
Mhm.
to you. So that's very true.
It's true.
Very, very, very true. But I want to um, thank you
Thank you.
for taking your time to come by Safe Space, because I was excited, anticipating, and I don't want to use the word nervous, because I wasn't nervous because I'm very comfortable with you, but it was a question in my mind as to how this conversation was going to go, because of you, the way you communicate. But what helped me, even outside of talking to you, was seeing the foundation again of who you are through your posting
Yeah.
and your philosophy. Um, so I want you to give your YouTube information. I want you to give the information about your classes and anything else, contact information that you would like the audience to know. And I want to say this, but I'll finish this once you give that information. So go right ahead.
Yes, so of course, if you are not already subscribed, definitely make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel, Forever Chrissy, and also make sure that you are following me on Instagram and TikTok. And Miss Shelby has done a great deed. She has introduced me into the live world. I know so many people are like, "Girl, go live." So I'm really, really excited to finally delve into that. I do offer consultations if you guys are looking to get started on YouTube. I have not posted this to the public yet. That's intentional. I am very intentional about the relationship. So we do a consultation phone call just to make sure that we are in alignment. I don't want to, y'all know. So yes,
Mhm.
and there are many, many other things in the works. I don't like to put the cart before the horse, but make sure that you are following me. Turn on your post notifications so that you don't miss it.
That's exciting. I'm excited about you going into the live world. I'm excited about everything you're doing. You shared a few of the things when we were talking, but I'm excited about you going into the live world because you have a message. And I think you have a style of communication that will connect with people. We all are so different. There's a full world. There are people out there that cannot connect with what I say and the way I say it to save Moses.
Yeah.
So they need you.
Mhm.
They need you to build a foundation to lead them across the bridge to a relationship with God. They need you to build them across the bridge to look at their generational curses, or as you bring their traumas to the surface, to be able to utilize the word of God to know what to do to end this in their lives. They need you. They need you to soften those people that may not even have thought about that. I have no Christianity or anything in their background, to get to them through this so they can hear you, because they have a respect or an admiration for you. God uses everything in his way,
Mhm.
and you have yielded. So I'm excited about that part of your evolving. Very excited. So if you all need to contact this director, creator, and writer and narrator of her own story, she has given you that information. And I'm going to do something that I always forget to do. I'm very excited about being on Instagram tonight. We're streaming on Instagram along with YouTube as well as Facebook. My information is Safe Space with Shelby Arrington. On Instagram, it's safe space underscore Shelby Arrington. On TikTok, Facebook, as well as YouTube, it is safe space with Shelby Arrington. Please follow and subscribe. We're coming up on our 2-year anniversary. I'm extremely excited. I think I have a little idea in the works for like a celebratory show for the month of March for the anniversary of Safe Space. So I'm gonna have to talk to you about that, Miss Expert.
Okay.
But I am so happy that you came by Safe Space tonight. I'm happy that you shared a little of Christy with us tonight. I'm hoping that some of your audience will see this so they can hear you, see you and know that you are planning to come into the live world, because I'm sure they're going to be extremely excited with your live tutorials,
Yeah.
the conversation that you may choose to have with them while you're doing it. It just won't be music or you narrating. And I think if you even broaden into interaction, which I want to do at some point,
Yeah.
broaden into interaction with my audience. I want to thank everyone, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, whether you see this video later, for supporting Safe Space, because it's been a hard struggle. Sometimes you get in those dark spots that you just spoke of, and you have to be your own light. And you say, does it matter? Do I really need to do this? It's not always easy. It's a sacrifice. But you have this small, still voice in the back of your head
Yep.
saying you got to do this.
Yep.
So if it just touches
Yeah.
one person, meeting them at their place of need, you've been obedient. And we both know that's better than sacrifice.
That is true.
So, Miss Chrissy, is there anything else you'd like to say tonight?
As I always say, and those that know me know, don't let fear interfere. I love y'all. Stay pretty. And of course, I will see y'all in my next video. Bye, baby.
Thank you so much, sweetheart. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm looking so forward to seeing you later and spending some time with you. And I thank you again for coming by Safe Space. Thank you all for listening. Also, my website is Hope, HOPE, the word AT, at safespace.com. If you need to contact Miss Chrissy through me, which I'm sure you don't need to, you can reach out to her directly. But if for some reason you do, I will be more than happy to get her the information. You all have a wonderful evening, and thank you so much for coming by Safe Space. Thank you for listening. Good night, sweetheart. You have a good evening. Bye-bye.